The lengths I go to for this. Well, it is that time of year once again. It is Christmas. You're watching this on Christmas Day, which is big. This is literally going out at the same time as the Queen's Christmas message, and look, there is much we can do to compete with her. Everyone's watching her, so bugger it. Let's have a bit of a year in review, shall we? 2018 has been, in all intents and purposes, quite an insane year. It's been one of the most solid years for film ever. Do not get me wrong. The ups have included great films like Mission Impossible Fallout, I, Tonya, The Shape of Water. So many films to name, and bearing in mind, I've seen 66 films this year, all being well. And the standard this year has just been impeccable. We've had films like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which come out of nowhere. You've had films like Sorry to Bother You, literally divide customers. We've had the final on-screen performance from Robert Redford in The Old Man and the Gun. And lest we forget, the almighty Avengers Infinity War, which broke new grounds for the superhero genre. And of course, we now know the follow-up's going to be called Avengers Endgame. And we're looking forward to reviewing that here at TheJackSmit.com. Believe me, bring on April. But it has been an incredibly solid year for film, not just for the cinemas, but for the industry as a whole. Admissions figures are up across the board, which is really nice. I'm really happy about that. A variety of new cinemas have opened, and the great men of a certain multiplex cinema have continued to go from strength to strength, even with the departure of one of their most talented team leaders. They know who they are. But I'm really happy how 2018 as a whole has gone. But of course, that's not why we're here. We're here to celebrate the end of the year. We're here on Christmas Day, of all days, to have a look back into the past, the present, and the future. And the past 5 years have been ace. This year in particular has been insane. Met some friends for life on the Ukraine project. I've got good amount of groundwork down on the independent cinema thing I'm working on. Plus, we launched this little YouTube series called The Journal this year. That has been one of the most surprising things I've ever done. We're 7 episodes in now, and the production quality's gone from strength to strength. Sure, we've had to re-edit a few of them due to issues, and the re-edits haven't turned out how I'd liked, but that's the learning curve of this journey. You've just got to go for it. But yeah, 2018, an insane year. A lot's happened, and a lot's still to happen. Because this month on The Journal, I figured I'd tell the story of how all of this came to be. I've explained how to do it nowadays, and how you lot can sort of focus in on the industry. Now it's realistically the right time for me to sort of tell my story, how it happened for me, and basically 15 minutes of consistent ego shaming, but it's not the way we roll here on TheJackSmit.com. So, it is Christmas Day, it is The Journal. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. So if you've seen last month's episode of The Journal, which was hastily cobbled together, if I say so myself, we were in that much of a rush. I've got dissertation stuff to be worrying about in a minute. But if you've seen last month's episode of The Journal, I've explained how to try and get into this film writing industry that is getting crazier by the month, crazier by the week even. But I figured for the final journal of 2018, I'd explain how I did it myself. And I want to go into the detail of the story, because it all began quite a few years back, 5 years ago now. It doesn't feel like that long. It feels like I've only been doing it for 1 or 2. But I want to do this story justice, so that's why I thought I'd begin this story where it all really began. Here at the legendary Balshaw's High School in Leyland. Now, in a nutshell, an English teacher of mine set a film review task as part of our GCSE work that would eventually become our exam. thank you gods at Welshboard. And that kind of gave me the idea, well, I've got a knack for writing short film reviews. Why don't I give it a go and send the results off to my friends? And that's where TheJackSmit.tumblr.com was born. That incarnation lasted, well, about a year. And I shut it down briefly. That was a bad decision on my part, but it gave me more of an opportunity to hone my craft, to hone the best skills, and to learn more film terminology. What happened while the blog was offline was the teachers started asking me about the films that I was seeing, and yes, 15-year-old me probably didn't have the same taste as 20-year-old me. It was at Balshaw's that I really managed to sort of develop the writing skills. I mean, it was an English teacher who set that task, and so much so that I still hold Rush in my heart. I mean, where is it in the collection? Oh, it's here. I still hold it very closely to my heart. You see, this was the film that began it all, everyone. This was the film. Although Great Gatsby was the first published review, it's a long story, but this was the one that really began the short, concise style. But we got something rather unique going, and it was here, roughly in this spot actually, just outside the art corridor. I would tell my maths teacher, Mr. Jennings, of what I was getting up to at a certain nondescript cinema. It was in that spot right there that I began reviewing films properly, and that turned out to be a decision that would benefit me greatly 5 years on. But where I really came into my own wasn't here at Balshaw's, no. It was here at Cardinal Newman College. Obviously, during my time at Newman, that was quite an interesting saga in that I was seeing films that I wouldn't have traditionally looked at first time round. It was quite a turning point in my life. I just moved on from Balshaw's. I got into the whole reviewing film game a little bit more. We were doing good numbers back then. But then I started reviewing French language films. We got Girlhood, La Haine, Breathless, which was a first take classic, which one of my favourite reviews to write actually. I also got to look back at some of the films I'd seen in the past. So I got to rewatch Skyfall for the blog second time round. But I was looking back at all these films, and obviously getting to look at them in a more critical light helped me a lot, and breaking these films down, I was like, oh, so you can go into detail. And that's why the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 review, because again, we did a lot of work on the first one in my second year at Newman. We did a lot of work on that, and that benefits my enjoyment. The second one a little bit more, so like, oh, so you got these character motivations, these plot lines going on, and the wider context of the industry, and that's where I developed my fascination for the box office figures weekly, which is the bread and butter of this industry. Film buyers and programmers use that to guide cinema managers into what films they should secure for the week. So it all began there, and then, of course, in that second year of Newman, I seen a film which would kind of change my perception of the way the blog operated forever. And I think the t-shirt I'm wearing kind of gives it away a little bit. So 3 years ago now, I seen a little Irish film called Brooklyn. It was a very small, subtle kind of thing. After a friend of mine had made me aware of that film, I decided, I'll throw caution to go in, give it a go. And that's where I really realised, oh, so this is what films can be. Because I'd only really been doing up to 12 A's at that point. I thought, oh, right, so this is the more intellectual kind of cinema I want to be seeing. I want to review more of this. And then that's really when weekly reviews became a thing. And obviously I have to mention everyone at Newman: Pete, Neil, Fran, Alana, guys at RE. In fact, the guys at RE, that's a funny story in and of itself. So every week, my RE teacher would turn it over to me for about 4 minutes to review the latest releases, and that was kind of the beginnings of what I do on Rip Ticket now. And I got a lot of enjoyment out of that, just honing my craft and delivering reviews. Obviously 4 minutes is kind of difficult to get across the big points of a film, and of course I struggle now padding out a radio show to 10-minute reviews because I love short, concise. It's easier to do, it's easier to turn around. But I was getting into the point where I was like, right, I can really double down on content. So that's when the projection room was born. But then the absolute kicker happened. While I was at Newman, we were doing a whole unit on multiplex cinemas, and I get the news that my cinema of choice was gonna be knocked down. You can imagine how I felt about that. Fast forward to May of 2016, and that news wouldn't be relevant because they announced they were going to be staying put. I was happy about that. I had a big old summer to play with before I began the film media popular culture degree at UConn, which I love to this day. The tutors there are brilliant, not acting as any promotion or anything. I'm not being paid to say this. Well, I wouldn't be paid to say this purely and simply because I don't do that sort of thing. But between me starting at UConn and me finishing at Newman, I had a lot of time to play with, and surprise, surprise, I spent a lot of that summer in a place that I just happen to know very well. You'll be able to see it just behind me there. Along the way, I met a very good chap called Ed Greenberg. I bumped into him by chance before filming there once, and me and him instantly hit it off. And it's a partnership that is still going strong to this day. He set me up with all sorts of different contacts, including general managers, team leaders. He knew people within the industry. He knew people within that cinema very well. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't know the people I do today. So, of course, a big shout out to Graham and the guys in there now, and every general manager, including Tom, Mel, managers who've gone before him, Gary. Of course, the current guys include Stephen, David, Zoltan, and of course, the mighty great men and women of the cinema, for which there are just 9 left now. Breaks my heart a little bit. But during that summer, I really amped up the content. There were almost weekly reviews coming out of that building, and then the birthday marathon weekend happened in July 2016. That was a fun weekend. But I just kept doing what I loved. Which was writing short and concise film reviews, and that got bigger when Ed told me about the film that he'd made. It was a £15,000 independent thriller called The Renata Road, shot in Livon. Really, really, really strong film. Bad Times at the El Royale is the closest thing you'll get to watching Renata Road for the time being. It's in distribution. Well, it's looking for distribution at the minute. That's all I'm legally allowed to say. Naturally, that brings us pretty much up to date. In September of 2016, I began Film Media Popular Culture. Fantastic course run by fantastic people. I've been keeping a blog going, documenting refurbs, working with UCLan film production students on their version of The Haunting of Hill House. Feels good to finally be able to talk about it. And of course, the most recent thing I'm doing for the blog now is the Ripped Ticket Show, and I began co-hosting that in March of this year, 2018, with a very good friend of mine, course mate, who's now the station manager for Pulse. He took a step back from the programme in October, handed control to me, and I've been having the most fun every Friday doing that programme. You've got Eve Hewson, Bono's daughter. Yes, Bono's daughter, playing an Irish maid Marion, who is perfectly made up, who's dressed exquisitely for the whole film. When you think, how can this continuity error get through something like this? I was sat there on Wednesday watching this film, expecting to be sat in the studio ranting about it, and that tells you everything you need to know about this film. It is ridiculously done. It's been good to actually do a bit of radio, and that's inspired the podcast we'll be launching in January. You'll be hearing a little bit more about that in a minute, don't worry. Or now we're going to be going into that in a little bit. But that is basically the story of the blog. It's been a hell of a first couple of years, if I say so myself, and I want to do more of it. But obviously at the end of the first 5 years, I feel like I want to change a few things up, you know. Because in February I started going to Odeon a little bit more. I've got no shame in doing so, because there's only so many films you can see in there. There's only so many films that they can get. But it gave me the idea. It gave me the idea to focus a little bit more on the films. It gave me a bit of an idea to focus less on the upsells. And that is basically what our big 2019 marketing push is going to be all about. And here's the trailer for it. For the last 5 years, we've been reviewing films at that cinema behind me. It's been a good first 5 years, if I say so myself. But of late, I've become disillusioned with the idea of the multiplex cinema. You have your ups, your downs, your upsells, and your ludicrously priced popcorn. So, here at TheJackSmit.com, we're going to take a stand against that. We are lovers of big screen entertainment, we're fanatical about film, hell, we're even travellers in the world of cine. But to understand every aspect of this fantastic industry, you have to travel to see the best and sometimes the worst of what every cinema, including independent places, have to offer. We don't really want to be focusing too much on the commercial. All we want to do is celebrate film. That's what we've loved doing for the first 5 years, and this is what we're doing for the next 5 years. So, there will be no new allegiances, no bias to any cinema chain ever. There'll be no external commercial influences. There'll be no £10.49 popcorn. Who the hell came up with that idea? We're not even going to focus on feedback forms anymore. All we will talk about are the films you watch as customers and whether they're good or not, in the same short and concise manner you know and love. And we're even going to focus on the production of a film too. That's what we love writing about. That's what you love listening to over on Pulse. Hell, that's what you love watching here on YouTube. So that's what we're going to double down on going into 2019. And yes, there'll be the occasional rant too. We are film fans. We are film lovers. But most importantly, we are born independent. So that basically is it for this double header of the journal. We hope you enjoyed the last 2 months worth of content. It's been an interesting ride to try and kind of tell my story about how I got into the industry and give you lot advice about how to go about doing it yourself. Obviously, a lot may change between now and publication. I'm recording this on November the 17th. Oh, Brooklyn weekend. But honestly, it's been an absolute ride this year, creating all sorts of video, radio content for you all, and I've had an absolute blast doing it, and we're going to continue more of it in 2019, do not worry. But of course, the surroundings behind me, can I get it in shot? Can I get it in shot? There we go. Of course, surroundings behind me, where is it? Surroundings behind me might change a little bit, but the mantra will remain the same. We'll just focus on the films you watch and whether they're good or not. So, for now, have a great Christmas. We'll see you in January for maybe an episode of Journal. We might go on a little bit of a break, but we will be back with more Journal, more What the Hell Happens, more projection rooms, and of course more first takes very soon. Have a great Christmas, everyone. We'll see you at the movies.